Good afternoon. Today is May 28th. This is the Lunenburg Water District Commissioners meeting. We'll start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Play ball. First thing we have review and sign warrants. Amazingly, that was worked very fast. Next, we have some minutes of May 14th, 2025.
Make a motion, we approve minutes May 14th.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Good. Nope, that was.
No
that's
moves?
aye.
Just
There's no
aye?
so moving, that's high, but that's okay.
All right. Review and approve quote from Capital Strategic Solutions. Oh, that's what this is. Okay. Yeah. So, oh Jesus, huh? Yeah.
Nope, keep going towards the end, you have them backwards. There you go. So we had that, sorry, go ahead.
So we talked to her, she came to the meeting, the
Right.
last committee meeting. So she gave a proposal and, me and Christie looked at it, we didn't like it, it was too much money. It
Right.
was mostly, it wasn't so much her, it was
No,
it was
I
the
understand.
mailings.
Yeah.
So the postage, so we switched it up and we came up with this idea is the most cost effective way we could do it. And still do a mailer, so
Oh, so this is still doing so.
just one mailer. Originally, the first plan was two.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the
One
first
mailer
plan was
everybody
to
in
do
town.
basically an 8.5 by 11 double-sided informational one.
Mm-hmm.
Then the second mailer was gonna be the postcard with the QR code, go here for the survey.
Mm-hmm.
Well, instead of doing two mailers, cause it was like 5,000 just in mailing.
Yeah.
We said, let's just do the postcard with the QR code, that sends them to the site. So they'll spend a little more time creating the site, it'll have the information, then the survey.
Did we ever talk about whether you could put a QR code in like the ledger?
I think you can, cause I
Like,
think
so
we
we
did
could
it with the
post-
lead service line.
If we
when
could
had
post
to
an
do it.
ad in
Yeah.
there, we can get.
Oh, we talked about
we
it,
just-
website,
Yeah, push it
Facebook,
everywhere we
everywhere.
can.
Sure.
yep,
Yep,
And I was just up with the town manager, and she says when we get that information past her, she'll put that on.
Okay.
Oh,
her
excellent.
means too.
All right.
yeah.
okay.
All right. I like that. I think that's the most reasonable approach to this.
Where are we stealing the funds?
Those ones I think we could take, I think it was still maintenance, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, those
We
would be
still had,
maintenance.
yeah, all that in there.
Okay, we still have that going before this end of this fiscal year?
Yes.
Are we trying to shoot for this?
This could actually be pushed to next year, we'll see how it goes, but it could be a portion this year, a portion next year, we'll see how
Yeah.
the funding goes. I mean, if they do
Okay.
half, we'll pay half.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
we could at least do some of their time to get stuff going, and then the mailer,
I mean, in light of our last meeting where we decided to push, trying to apply for the funding and everything
Next year.
until next year,
yeah,
this is not an immediate thing that needs to
Right.
get done.
Right.
We have time to process
But
this.
we wanna be able to process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
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 I'm just saying, there's
Yeah.
not. We're not bound by one or the other. If it,
Yeah.
No. So
Are
okay.
you inclined to move forward with this?
I am inclined to move forward.
Then I would make a motion that we allow the superintendent to engage in a contract with Capital Strategic Solutions for the sum of $7,200 for informational purposes in regards to PFAS and well operations and whatever. What are we, mainly PFAS or well?
Mainly.
treatment options.
Treatment options.
Yeah,
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
okay.
Okay. Commissioner, superintendent, clerk, additions.
So, is it in the warrant for pay, the,
MDR?
class services?
It was,
Yeah.
it's not on here.
Alright, well, maybe if they authorize it, we can maybe add it.
Yep.
So mass services, when the engineers were here, we talked about a redundant well at Keating's.
Yes.
So this is just to do some preliminary testing around the well
Mhm.
to see what's,
Correct.
if something's available.
Sure.
So it's
I'm all for
something-
this.
Okay,
All
do
for
it now,
this.
do it later, we gotta.
Yep. I'd love that very, very much. Do we need a vote on this, or is it just,
This one's a little high for me to just sign off on, so if you guys could vote
Okay.
to hire this and say, authorize Christie to add it to the warrant.
Hmm.
Well, actually,
I can print another
we
one. for
don't
them to sign.
need to put it on the warrant until actually the invoice comes in. So let's leave it off the warrant, vote to
Just
authorize.
Sure.
the warrant.
yeah. Is the,
So I gotta make a motion that we engage in the services of Mar Services, Inc. for the sum of $13,611 for testing down at the Keating Well site for additional redundancy. It's not necessarily gonna allow us to take more water out of that site. It's going to allow for us, if there is an issue with the current well casing, because it's only one well down there, there's an issue with that, then we go to this backup.
Right.
So it's not gonna necessarily give us more water, but it's going to give us redundancy. Okay,
Correct.
all
kinda
those,
like that.
all those in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
okay.
Is, NDR on there?
I did
It
put
is.
them on,
Okay.
I put
Do
for
you guys
the,
have any, there's only one payment left after this.
Okay, I'm assuming that was the bulk of the final.
Yes.
That was
Only,
like the
only
paving.
left to go on is the pavement markings. And
Okay,
they're out there, the rubber sealing.
yeah, it's doing that right now.
Then that's it.
Okay,
And we're doing pretty good on the money side, we're under budget, so
Yep.
that was the key thing.
Who's inspecting the paving that they're doing? Is DOT making sure that they're okay with?
They were there, cause I had to, tell them when it was gonna be done, I had to also have to tell them when they're gonna do the paint markings, the lines, they wanna be there for that as well.
Okay, but they're okay with everything?
Yep.
Cause that would be my only thing is that, cause they're the ones that really approve it or disapprove it.
So this is where the rubber coating, the edge, the crack fill is
Yeah.
coming into play, I don't think MDR was aware they had to do that, but
Yeah.
Mass DOT said, no, you gotta seal all the joints, so
Yeah.
that's why they're doing it. And then they asked me, what about the joints on the town roads? And I said, well, if it's not part of the contract, let's do it anyway, cause it's the right way to do it. And I said, so if we have to add a little more to do that, we'll cover it, so.
Okay.
So, I think everything's going good.
Yeah.
Mm.
Good.
they did a very good job paving. Just someone who drives over it all the time, like,
Yeah.
very good.
So yeah, so we had, not really, it's not part of the financial side, but they gotta pick up all the silt fence and,
Yeah, the cleanup, the,
yeah, that stuff.
I
Yeah,
haven't
then
driven
they
down
got,
there, is the grass starting to,
oh yeah.
oh yeah.
is it nice?
Oh,
Then
yeah.
they gotta pull the bags out of the catch
Yeah.
basins, so those kinda mess up the drainage flows. I mean, one of them we had to take out, clean it, put it back in,
Oh, yeah.
cause it was full of top.
I can't tell any of those I pulled off and that bag's still in there. Oh, yeah, this one.
Those are heavy.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, so, the only thing, I was, like I said, I was up at the town hall with the town manager, and, you know, I was presenting some of the PFAS information, and, she's willing to, you know, look at all the information. She requested that if, we could do a presentation for the board, for them to see it, and, I told her, let's wait till the final report's done for Keating's, and I
Mhm.
said, then we'll get in touch with you and we'll set something up, so. And, she mentioned that, you know, new members of the board, so it'd probably be good for them to, you know, see what we get going. I told her it'd be great if we could have, on occasion, you know, when something comes up, maybe either yourself or one of the select board members attend the meeting, you know, maybe give input, just
Mhm.
guide it, spread it to the rest of the board or whatever, so she seemed very, you know, very,
I
open.
think we did, I thought Jeffries was our liaison to
He
the
was,
board
yeah.
Mhm.
when he was on, so. Good.
That's all I got.
The trucks.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah, the truck.
Yeah, I'm looking
I
at that
gave
like,
them-
whoa.
I gave them the quotes.
Alright, so the auto car, alright, so everybody knows, all of our equipment is very old. The Mac is a 1988, the auto car is a 1996. So the auto car, very difficult to drive. I mean, when you couldn't barely keep it on the road, so that's why I asked if we could bring them in for some service. So we brought it to Performance Transportation, they went through the whole truck, did service on it. Came up with quite a few things that are wrong with it. I mean, not all the things on the list have to be fixed, but I would say at least fix the steering, maybe the cab mounts, but there's a lot of little things that maybe we could do ourselves, I'm not sure. But it was a lot of money. So then we brought the Mac down. And Zach, he says, when you get the things that are wrong, you just call him. So Zach is the head of performance. And so I called him, he's like, this is an old tired truck. He says, I'd think about this one, so that's why I'm just passing on you guys. To me, I'm not a has to be a new truck kind of guy. To me, drive it till it's a piece of junk and you can't fix it. So I don't, Zach's thing was to maybe get rid of the two of them and maybe just buy a decent and use one truck. And I started looking around at pricing, you can fix those easily 3 times and not come anywhere near what a decent
Right.
truck is.
Yeah.
So was this for the ACOG?
That's the auto car,
Yep.
and he didn't even put a price on, this is the Mac.
Okay.
So he didn't even put a price on it, he just
He
listed
said the Mac's
everything.
tough because he says some of the things, the fuel injector, he says that needs to go back to Mac. They need to rebuild the whole thing.
Does it surge or boom?
No, it's just leaking everywhere.
Oh.
There's a lot of leaks.
Yeah.
So he said we can estimate a budget of 3,000, but they don't really know until they get into it.
Just to fix that,
Just for that.
and then there's the
There's a
whole
lot
list
of
of,
$3,000
Yeah.
things to fix it.
Well, I'm okay with the A car at 10 grand. I mean, with this like a blind spot mirror on the hood for $145, we probably could do that
Well,
ourselves.
yeah, we can fix that for the toolbox.
The belt we could do, but I don't mind him going through this truck and definitely knocking out the major things, because a new dump truck or a newer comparable dump truck is just very, very expensive. And the reality is that we don't use these on a daily basis.
Correct.
So as long as we have something that's functioning, safe, good enough, if you might say,
Yep.
I'm okay with. The Mac, we can talk about.
Yep.
so do you want a price, do you wanna see if they can get more of a price for it? I mean, cause the 6-wheeler seems to be the one right now that if we use it, that's
Right, the
the
six-wheel,
majority of the time.
and I know why you like this, because it's lower and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So we can,
yeah.
we can get the.
Let me, I'll look at the Mac if you want, you know what I'm saying, as a guy who has the same truck, I'll look at it with you, and we'll just maybe come up with a game plan.
Well, yeah, so, all right, let's fix this and this. We'll fix the
Right,
next year, 2
Yeah.
years, whatever.
But auto car, you're good to move.
I'm
forward.
definitely, I think that's a good, solid truck.
Sure is.
Putting 10 grand into that is not the end of the world. I believe in, geez, when was the last time you did something like that to that truck?
Never.
No, you know what I'm saying? So we put 10 grand, that thing will be, for as much as we use it, I'll get another 10 years plus out of that thing with these.
I agree. I agree.
So I get no problem with the auto car. We'll sit down, we'll take a look at the Mac and get a realistic idea of what we really think it might cost, and maybe peek around for a different 6-wheeler, but I get it, the 6-wheel is probably a lot easier to use and most of the time it's
Pretty versatile,
Yeah.
maneuverable.
shorter,
and-
I
yeah.
get it. So,
Yeah, most thing is the height.
yeah, the height, I can see that being,
Is there a big difference on the weight? Like, could you use a lighter duty truck or no?
No.
No.
That Mac is so full that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And don't forget, it's full of soup.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
that thing.
The last main break, it scared me. I thought
Mm.
coming down this little dirt road here, just a little tip,
Yeah,
and it scared, I thought I was going over.
yeah, it's just heavy. All right, let's roll with that.
Okay,
that was easy.
Hmm?
You got anything, Mr. Burke?
Nope.
Excellent. Public comment. Mr. Ramsey, do you have anything? You're up, buddy.
Yeah, so I'm here because I watched your meeting last time on YouTube, and I had quite a lot of things we discussed, and I had more questions as you guys were responding to it. And so I appreciate that we had this time to ask you, but I think it'll be helpful to other people too. Actually, Terry coming in here reminded me that, I don't know if I know Fran, I think you knew, I had a major flood in my house.
oh yeah,
When I was on vacation for 5 days at least, that water pouring in it, took out the whole downstairs, the kitchen, the cabinets,
Oh.
everything. But your guys were amazing. They were people out in the field, and Terry was one of them, others too, very responsive, very helpful, very much on time when they said they'd be there, they were there, made a lot of good suggestions, worked with me, the contractor, and the excavator, which I had to have as well, located pipe. So I just want to make sure that I pass that on to you guys, they were over the top, as well as the staff in the office. Every time I call, first of all, somebody answered the phone, right? And everything that I'd asked, I got, they call you back, they actually called me back,
Yeah.
schedule stuff, everything. So I just wanted to let you know that, I'm glad Terry walked in and reminded me of it, it slipped my mind.
Sir, would you explain, introduce yourself, because I
Oh,
don't
I'm
know
sorry.
you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bill Emke. I live
Right.
on 445 Townsend Harbor Road.
Thank you.
Yeah. Actually, one of my questions just answered was, why the redundant well at Keating? And I was wondering, and I asked one of the people who were at the meeting, is that for volume redundancy, or is that to protect the well house? And it was discussed at the meeting, but I didn't quite get it, but you
Yeah.
just said the casing. Is it to protect the casing for
Well, the issues with the hardness down there, correct me if I'm wrong, Fran, that there, it almost gets fully occluded. And is that what you're saying that this could, or is this just if something happens to the?
This is just at the well, you're on a whole other issue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a whole other issue, so we'll have to address that later. But this one's was, let's say, the well needs to be cleaned, which happens.
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting pretty close to, like, every 10 years, you gotta clean the well, it's down for usually a month. And in those cases, if you don't clean it at a certain time, you lost the capacity forever. So that's the thing, we just wanna make sure a lightning strike blows up the pump, we have a place to go. That was the whole thing, that we had no increase in volume, as Mr. Bursch said. It was just, this well's down, here's a backup, that's all.
So our wells on Lancaster Ave, there's multiple wells, and then even in the wells themselves, there's multiple fields. So the one at Keating's, one well, one casing, that's it. Anything happens to that, there's no backup from that source. This would give us backup from that source.
So, just to maybe even clarify further, the pocket of water on there, we have one straw in right now, okay? We are simply, and this is easy to do because it's already an approved DEP or well site, for us to just put another straw in it's a pretty reasonable cost, and it simply is that we can draw out of that, all the same rules apply there, we're not getting more volume and not anything. If for some reason this straw, you might say, breaks, which happened to Keating's, PJ Keating's, they have a well down there also, that happens to last year. Their case broke and they were out of water, you know what I'm saying? So this is for a
Yeah.
year. So this is simply just a pretty cheap insurance we're not adding a well per se, we're just putting another straw down in here. So when we do have to take that offline for cleaning, whatever, we could still then pump out of that. Yeah. And it's not like it's a new well site that you have to get all the approvals and everything. So it's just putting another
So
straw in there.
it's really a well to prevent downtime. is what it is.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
Because you can fix
Yes.
it, if that well goes south for some reason.
Right.
You're gonna
Right.
fix it, so.
And this was all part of the proposal at Time Bond, that
Correct.
you need to do a redundant, this was their idea,
Yeah.
so that's why I'm
Yeah.
just kinda following through with it.
Then there was some discussion that I missed, I heard the discussion, but I misinterpreted, didn't understand it. The hard water treatment, no, actually, let me go to this. This is the proposal that they presented. And it had 5 options, and I think now, based on the meeting, it may be a 6th one you guys are looking at.
No,
S-
that's not happening.
What
The
was it?
sixth option, us running a water Lancaster well to Keating's.
Keating's,
Yeah.
no,
The
'cause
the
it's
engineers
not,
already looked at that, they
Yeah.
do not, you
Yeah.
cannot do that.
yeah.
Dead end lines, you gotta redo, it would be, you can't, so that's the option 6 is
So there's no
No
options.
way. No.
Well, that would be another question I had. I don't wanna keep you from dinner, but that would be then another question I had. But options 1 and 2, are these all standalone options? Like option 1 is Hickory Hills, option 2 is Lancaster only? Since they can't provide the water that we need, is that really an option?
No, not a legitimate option individually. That was the point. They were showing each well individually.
So,
And then how are we going to combine or modify these to come up with the water needed for Lunenburg?
okay, so 1 and 2 don't exist, that's not really an option.
Well,
Well-
one alone, Hickory Hills only could, but it's, you know, it's not something that we're really gonna explore just because it doesn't.
Makes
no,
sense.
it doesn't make sense. There's not a lot of redundancy there. I believe that list was kind of put together for the individuals to realize that these are maybe our sources and the best way to approach it, if that helps you out.
Okay, I'm very linear in how I think, right? So I looked at these as options for the PFAS remediation. This option 1 is one, option 2 is another one, option 3. That's how I read this. So if I'm reading it incorrectly.
Oh, that's true.
It is true.
Okay, so with that thought, option 1 won't work because there's not enough water. Option 2 won't work because there's not enough water. Because you have to treat all the drinking water. So,
Oh, I love that one,
there's a.
because that's not what everybody's telling us. But
Well,
Well, he-
that's,
I
then
don't-
that's a
No,
question.
yeah.
And that's a question.
we need to treat all of it.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, whether it's on or not, right now, our best option for the future is to treat all of our sources.
That's how you start off with a plan, right? You said, here we are, here's what we have to do, here's our strategy.
Yep.
And so if the strategy is to make sure all the drinking water is treated to accept whatever that is, I understand you guys are dealing with Massachusetts and the EPA and things are kind of shaky or let's say, not clear. So if that's a premise, that you're starting with all the water that goes into the drinking water, goes to users, is in fact, has been treated for PFAS, then 1 and 2 don't work.
Well, the Hickorells individually, average daily demand is 540,000 for the year. So I mean, if the only one we treat was Hickory Hills, residents wouldn't like it because we'd have to have water restrictions for the summertime, but you could do it, you know, but I would not recommend that, because they only supposed to do it.
Okay, it's.
So, but it's still,
Okay.
yeah, so I kinda threw that in there, it didn't really matter, cause I wouldn't, if we said option 1's the only one we can do, I wouldn't be happy with that.
We came up with what we felt was the best option, knowing all of the information. And we were pretty well bombarded with that we didn't give people any other options. So this is where we got down to showing people individual options, but we still feel the best option is to treat Hickory Hills and Lancaster Ave together. That's, I don't know, I'm sure you're still there, I'm still there, and I believe the chair is still there, that the thing that makes the most sense is to take the two sources that have the same problems and combine them into one treatment plant is the best option we feel we have.
Okay.
But people, general public and people from the public like to see other options. And this is why we've broken it down to, okay, well, these are the singular options, even though I agree with you, they don't make sense, but we needed to give that information
Yeah,
out.
that was done at the request of the public.
Right.
Okay, but I don't want to belabor a point, I just want to be clear in my own head. When you look at options for what you plan to do for Lunenburg Water District.
Sure.
Yeah,
You are not looking at option for remediation, water treatment, you are not gonna look at option 1 and 2.
that's up to the public, because they voted.
But it won't solve the problem.
I'm with you, but they voted. That we're at the
You can
whim of the public.
If we go and pick our vote, it's gonna be options 3 and I would pick option 5. 3 and 5 would be my picks. But,
Yeah, but.
We have
So-
to give the option to the
So why do you give an
public.
option for something that will not solve the problem? I don't understand.
Because
So-
they
so-
asked for it.
Right, so this is, Bill, I'm 100% understand exactly even like your confusion of why even opt this out there. And it is due to the fact of the feedback we have received from the public being like, well, we want to know all these options. The reality is that option 1 does not technically work for Lunenburg. Option 2 is just stupid. It just, Lancaster only just barely gets us by. We feel, and we put it together for the option 3 would be best. Option 4 is Keating's with hard water. Is that correct?
Yeah, leaving the hard water.
So even like option 4, like people like, well, people, and this is the public saying, well, you could do it. And technically, yes, we could turn on Keating's well, treat the PFAS, and pump out the hardest water you've ever seen. Us sitting up here in the Lunenburg Water District know that I in good conscience can't do that. Where some people think like, no, we can just treat the water ourselves. As soon as that thing starts getting pumped out, man, our phone is going to be blown up. It's not
Already
a,
does.
it's not a responsible option on our end. That was simply those options. I don't think they're realistic, but that was what was asked for.
But here's the thing, if you put down a piece of paper, this is saying that you folks say, this is an option, voters, for lack of a better term, and this is an option. You do this, your PFAS troubles will go away.
So Bill, what we did before is we didn't put that piece of paper out and we said, these are the 2 options, let's say, for treating it. And there was massive blowback from the public. So while I completely understand what you're saying, that was done to pacify, to spread maybe more information out to the public.
But this wasn't, the intent of this wasn't
No.
for the public. The intent was this for the engineers to show the
Right,
board.
right.
Yeah,
That
and then it was
these are
talked
the
about.
costs individually. It wasn't say, hey, let's go to the public and say,
Right.
hey, which ones do you wanna do?
Yeah.
Correct.
It was like, these are the costs, and the biggest thing was how can you even put this out there for construction when you don't know the cost to maintain it? And that's what this is. It's showing all the costs, the cost to do it, the cost to the maintenance needed for every site. So you can break it down and look at it. It was just mostly information to the board. It really wasn't meant for the public to
Well,
say,
no.
hey, I want option 3 or option 6.
But I think that was discussed
Right.
about at the last meeting too. I think the engineers, I thought, did a pretty good job saying, this is what you commissioners asked from your residents, present
Yes.
all the options. And then at that meeting, I thought it was kind of discussed that by the engineers, yeah, option 1 and 2, we put them there so everybody could see it,
Right.
but
They
really,
don't
it's
see
not,
that they don't work.
it's
Right.
not a good idea,
Yeah, it's
so,
in the I'm sorry, it is in the footnote. It does say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so I think that was the goal with then, Capital Strategic Solutions was here, was to take all the information that Ty and Bond presented in collaboration with the commissioners to narrow it down and say, all right, what are we now putting out to the public? And that's the idea of what we're hiring her to say, all right, these are the best options that the professionals are saying, what would you guys like to do? And that's then, not this, not that, that sheet isn't gonna go out to say, which one do you want?
Yeah, okay, that's because that's how the public, I think, just like I interpret.
Can I say a couple of things?
Not
No.
yet. I'm gonna let him get through
Yeah,
now.
that,
By all
well,
means,
that's,
let you talk.
that was the one question, if they were real viable options. I understand now. And that was the only thing I think there was one other last footnote. Yeah, Ty and Bond made a mistake here, but that last footnote on this page, again, that's not going out to the public, so it may not matter. I can hardly read it. Mass DEP recommends capacity to meet max daily demand with the largest source offline. No, that's not what it says. It says almost, effectively, it would end up being almost the same. You just meet the highest level that your primary source has, but not the highest demand. And there's also a disclaimer on it, the very next thing, or having water storage equivalent to, I think, 2 days of average use. So this isn't,
Well, this is true, because we don't have 2 days off for
Oh,
average use.
average
Not,
use, average
not,
use,
not during
yeah.
summertime, we have storage for probably 12 hours. If the sources go down, I mean, if we're on a max day for pumping 1.2 million gallons on a day, we'd go up pretty quick.
Just because it's in the tank, doesn't mean it's all usable. There's a level at the tank where
I didn't write it.
Yeah, no, I know.
So all I did is.
So what, so just to go on that a little further, when we were trying to sell water to Lancaster, that was, DEP's concern was we could not meet Lunenburg's demand and Lancaster's with Keating's well offline. So that's why we were starting looking at test wells down in Lancaster Ave. We were trying to upgrade well number 2, and that's why we started doing that work. So DEP did look at this and say that yeah, they know what we have for storage in the tanks, and Chase Road tank, 30,000 gallons per foot, Sunny Hill tank, 15,000 gallons per foot. We can drop to a level, if we shoot for, low-level alarm, 68 feet on Chase Road, so what's that, 19 feet? So.
Are you talking the pressure head, is that what you're talking?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, so when we hit a certain number, residents start losing water, so we try to stay above that. So when we built the Sunny Hill Road tank, all right, let me back up a little. Chase Road tank is 2.8 million gallons of water. It's a standpipe. Really, you only have the top 25 feet as usable water. The rest is just a waste, you know, if you.
Because that reduced the pressure for some of the users?
Right, yeah, a lot of people wouldn't have pressure. So when we built the Sunny Hill Road tank, we did it called a hydro pillow. It's only 500,000 gallons, so it's much less quantity. But the per foot is only half, it's half as much, so it's 15
It's-
versus 30. They're the exact same height, elevation, we used 716 feet above sea level, so they all have the exact overflow height. But Sunny Hill Road, the water's all put up top, right in our work area, in the needed area. So that one's a much better design. So if we built a new one, it'd be a hydro pillow
Yeah,
design.
so again, I'm just, we went through this actually last year, when we
Yep.
talked about the redundancy, and it says, what does it say? Or shall provide storage capacity equivalent to the demand of at least 2 average days. Then went on to talk about, or if you have some other municipality participating.
Okay,
So I don't know how to interpret this.
All right, so in that case, we don't have 2 days of water, so that's not doable, so.
You don't have 2 average days of water?
No, so that'd be a million gallons. So what's it, 600,000?
I think on this, I think it has some average, you can do the division here. Last year, or for a bunch of years, 184 million gallons per year.
But that,
Average.
but that says with your
So-
major, your highest source offline, correct? Is that what that statement says?
No, this is just, this just
This-
says the average annual system production from 2013 to 2023 is 184 gallons per year. So you divide that by 365, how many gallons you got?
So it's a little over
It's the
500,000.
second time you've used different numbers.
Oh, it's on the
Dave,
sheet.
Dave, I'm gonna let him finish and then I
Well,
will.
I mean, that's fine, but he misspoke.
I'll let you, I'll
No.
let you dive
Oh,
in.
no, that's fine with me, I mean,
And
it's
it's
fine,
not a
tell me,
big
no,
thing,
tell
but
me.
he said 184,000.
Million. He
No,
meant,
it's like a million
yeah,
gallons.
we know he meant million.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so when you divide that out, that gives us our annual permit we're allowed. We're allowed to pump 540,000 gallons on average. And I don't remember our number last year, it was probably 520, so a little bit below our average day for the year.
Yeah.
But I mean, 2 days of average use, like summertime when we're pumping 1 million gallons a day, yeah, we're down to less than a day of storage, you know, and you don't have time to react to people and say, stop using water. That's gonna take you 3 days to get there.
Well, to reduce the pressure, that won't stop using water, you just turn the valve off? You
No, the water will
pressure-
just
Oh, no,
stop.
cause everything's by elevation, so
Yeah.
when the tank gets a certain level, the houses up on the hills, they lose the water. They won't-
Totally lose the water.
Totally.
Yeah.
So they're at elevations higher than your tank?
They're,
Or-
well,
or-
like West Street, their pressure, right now with the tanks fairly full, the pressure's like 25 PSI. So it's 2.31 feet per pound, so if we drop the tank 10 feet, they just lost, you know, they're out of water, you know.
It's you in Massachusetts, it's not me, I can't, all right. All I can do is read what they say.
Yep.
I read what Ty and Bob put in, I said, oh, no, that's not right, because I remember and I put it up, so.
But if
However
whatever,
they interpret that, that's your.
so whenever it comes up, DEP's gonna review all that stuff, you know,
Yeah.
like when we did Lancaster, we had big meetings with Lancaster. They went through all that, and, they said you need to increase your capacity for Lancaster Ave.
Sorry, this will go only a couple more. But this one was one actually that Woody talked about before we even started the questions, and it had to do with the treatment of the hard water is a $50 million bill.
I believe, I don't have that piece
I
of
saw
paper.
38 on this sheet, and then
The maintenance costs are exorbitant.
Yeah.
Okay, but to do it would cost $50 million. And at the meeting last week, somebody asked you, and I was watching it again on YouTube, and unfortunately the volume doesn't pick up very well, but I couldn't hear everything you said. But I think you said someone suggested, well, why not fund water softeners for people who want it?
Correct.
And then I think you said something, they wouldn't live with it, or some comment along those lines.
Sure.
That's, I wonder if you could explain that.
Well, so those options 4 and 5. 5 would be treating Keatings and treating the hardness, and it was just the number was unsubstantial to.
Yeah.
I just don't. I feel that number is huge. It wouldn't make any sense. There's other ways to handle this. And then number 4 was to treat the PFAS at Keatings and not treat the hardness. So right now we have fairly hard water in Lunenburg, but right now we're mixing it with between Keatings and Lancaster Ave. If we went ahead and just did Keatings, now Lancaster Ave is 100% not usable, and we are solely relying on Keatings. So your water hardness is going to double.
We're gonna go through the roof. yeah.
Okay, it's ridiculous. So me as sitting here as on a chairman of the board of this, I couldn't in my right mind push that idea out to the public, knowing that I'm going to double their hardness in their water. Where some people who don't really care about the water district at all, they just want to turn their water on and pay their bill, it's going to draw them out of the woodwork. It's not something that I'm comfortable with sitting here doing. It's just to me, it's not an option. It isn't an option. We can't just send that out there and then offer people water softeners. We're coming up with solutions to have good water here that while it's legally good, it's not good water. So that's, I guess, is my point towards that.
It's hard water.
Very,
So-
very hard water, yes.
And you also said manganese and iron.
Mm-hmm.
And what I recall from hard water, excuse me, is primarily calcium and manganese.
Correct.
Or
Mag-
magnesium, sorry,
magnesium.
calcium and magnesium,
Yes.
calcium carbonate and magnesium.
So the iron and manganese problems is at the
That-
other wells.
Yeah, Lancaster Ave and Hickory Hills are iron and manganese.
So the Keating well has a calcium problem, that's what's causing the hardness.
Correct.
And the magnesium problem.
Correct.
is causing, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sure you thought it all through, but, yeah, you like to provide the best water you can,
Mhm.
the least hardness. I know a lot of people don't have hard water, or don't know it. If it's a question of dollars, $50 million it comes to something like close to $200, almost $1,000 a quarter, $700-800 a year for a $50 million 30-year investment, or loan, if you will, 4%. I guess that was net present value, the $50 million, right?
I thought they did contingency and everything in the
Is that-
numbers.
Well, the actual treatment plant was only 4 million, 21 million for the regular PFAS treatment, 25 million for the softening plant. So the actual cost of the treatment plant wasn't that expensive, it was the maintenance cost. Long
So
term.
I had a 38.4 and 88.1 when you had.
Yes, when you do the bond, yep.
Yeah. So that's a difference of $50 million. To do the
Oh,
subtraction.
well, yeah,
right?
cause they're tying in the maintenance costs,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Oh, yes, so this is net present value then. It includes the interest, I assume,
Yes,
and the maintenance, so.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that will end up being, I did a quick calculation here somewhere. Per year, a cost of $760 per user. What do I use for users? 2,200?
We're a little higher,
25.
about 25.
2,500 is
Okay, well, that'd be
Sure.
a little less. So that's expensive.
Very.
Whereas, and I don't know what flexibility you have, I know it would be a bookkeeping nightmare probably, and not in the context of providing hard water. So I understand that. But if you just offered a softening system and you're putting together a query,
Survey.
a survey of some kind, for people who want to have their water softened, who haven't already bought water softeners, or don't mind the water, saying, okay, suppose you have to buy, 2,000. 2,000 times even like $2,000 is like a $4 million loan, it becomes, I did it, it becomes like $115 per year. So maybe folks want the best water you can provide, and I understand being on the water district, you want to provide the best. I understand that argument very much. But the users may say, hey, I'd rather pay $115 if you can get the same kind of loan, same terms, that's a $50 million loan. I'd rather pay $115 than $760. And of course, the salts would be a little extra.
So who's gonna maintain these systems?
Right.
They own it, they buy it. I mean, look, so now we're getting into,
Yeah,
I understand some,
Salt's huge.
Huh?
Salt, I mean, you're gonna be
The
buying
salt-
2 bags a week. You know,
well,
someone's gonna break their back and now they're suing us.
no, wait, time out. I'm not there yet. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know what flexibility the commission has to do this. You may say, I can't do that. It could be you can't do it, but this, just from the point of view of saying, hey, I take the survey, there's 500 customers, they have hard water, and they like to have a hard water softener. Okay, so the commission takes out that loan, same terms as, say, the $50 million loan. Take out that loan, and then charge on a separate bill, here's what bookkeeping is, buy the units, say $2,000, $3,000 unit, and have it installed. They now own it, they bought it from you, so they pretty much bought it from you guys. I don't know if you can do that, but they bought it from the board.
Frank,
If
can I
you're
see
allowed
that?
to do that, then they
Yeah, no,
own it,
yeah.
just like anything else
Yeah,
they buy. And they would, of course, have to buy the salt each year.
But they can do that now. Independently, people can do that now.
They would get terrific
Oh,
terms.
okay.
They could come up with a capital.
I think I understand your point being like, if you took this scenario 4, then you factored in private softening systems for homes, and you compare all those numbers back and forth, like it lowers the cost of option 5.
Yeah.
I completely understand what you're saying. Once again, just from a commissioner perspective here, now I'm putting the burden of treating the water we're providing to people on the end user and maintaining that,
And
okay?
charging them.
And charging them for it. Now, or I can start looking at the other options on here, not charge.
How do you not charge for
They're gonna
the,
buy the unit, we're gonna buy the water.
But I mean, we're
softener.
still
In that
charging them to use the
context,
water.
We're charging them
Yeah.
to use.
They-
Which I'm,
they-
I'm still selling them very,
Yeah.
like I said, I think the numbers on the hardness are, in my mind, while it's legally okay to do, it's not okay to send out water that hard to the users. Not to mention the fact it's going to wreak havoc on our entire system with all this hard water in there. It's just, to me, it's not the way, it's not the best approach to this. And financially, if it worked out the best to do it that way, I still don't think it's the right thing to do, because you're putting the burden of cleaning water at the user at their home, when we, as the water department, should be providing you with clean
No,
water.
I understand that. I mean, people are cleaning it now, but I understand where you're coming from. It's just a question of whether, what people want to spend to harden.
So I'll be honest with you, even if I went out a poll and everybody said, yes, I want to do this, I still don't feel comfortable in doing that, because I don't think we're doing our job at this end by pushing that. It's like we're pushing part of our treatment, you might say, on the user in their home. So now this user in the home has to maintain that softening system, which requires quite a bit of maintenance. It's not something that we should be pushing to the end user, and that's what we're doing.
and hard water does affect like all sorts of appliances, hot
Yeah,
water
hot water
heaters.
heaters, yes,
And
furnaces,
now
yes, shower heads.
we're gonna take this too,
Hair.
and we're gonna push this on the municipality itself. So we're gonna tell the town of Lunenburg, hey, we're gonna give you this hard water, and we have to figure out now how to have filtration systems for the schools, the libraries, all the public safety buildings.
No, I
There's
understand that.
and that's where I would agree with the chairman on this, is the burden on providing the best water we can kind of is on us. I'm more inclined to try to treat the hardness by incorporating water that's not so hard. You take the capacity that you would get from combining Lancaster Ave and Hickory Hills, and they're gonna automatically blend with the water that would come from Keating's, am I right, wrong, or indifferent?
Yeah,
And-
they all go through one area.
And
so-
then that would end up reducing the overall hardness of the water coming out of,
That would be what it is
The
today,
system.
right? That's what it is
well,
today.
that's, what it is today is just Lancaster
50-50.
Ave and Keating's.
Yeah,
You know, if you now take another source, now you're grabbing from multiple sources, you're gonna get, more blend. It's gonna be more, the hardness is gonna be blended more because you're taking from other sources than just Lancaster Ave and Keating's. If you incorporate the Hickory Hills well, cause you're now pumping that to Lancaster Ave, you're gonna have that much more water to blend with Keating's and you won't be running it at a higher level. If you don't have the capacity, you're running your Keating's well at a higher level, therefore your hardness everywhere is gonna go up.
So,
But unless they come up with a cheaper way to treat it, that, to me, that's
that's a lot of money. That's-
Yeah.
right, so to me, if cost, he doesn't come out and say it, if cost is his concern, Keating Well's staying offline. Hickory Hills and Lancaster's being fixed, that's what I'm getting out of him. Okay, so in my opinion, and I've actually changed my opinion, our number one source was, to me, was always Keating's, highest producing, to me, other than the hardness, excellent water quality. Well, and the PFAS now too. So now with the hardness issue, which we had all the calls, Hickory Hills sent a big letter, called Luna, the water district, have them treat the hardness. So we were bombarded with calls for months from Hickory Hills, okay? So to me, and not just Hickory Hills, other residents too, hardness is a huge, it's our number one complaint. So to me,
'Cause you
if
can see it.
if Keating's going, you gotta do the hardness, okay? So anyway, so on my number one source, so Keating was always the top. And then I always say, if I'm picking another one, it's Hickory Hills, because Lancaster Ave is limited, and I showed him all the pump records, the flow levels, and he said, yes, you definitely need to babysit those, because you could see them. So he agreed that, I probably have
No,
an email.
No, I wanna talk to you about that too, no, that's,
You agreed to it. You
I-
sent them
I
an email
agree.
that
I
that they
saw it.
definitely need babysitting.
well, I don't wanna change the subject now, Fran, cause let's continue, but
All
I
right,
will.
so anyway, so now I always had Keating's at the top. Now I'm actually switching. Hickory Hills is actually the number one source I think that we need to treat, because if you treat Hickory Hills and Lancaster, we meet the demands for Lunenburg. We're good to go, you know, so.
With redundancy and no hardness.
Exactly, and and minimal cost. I mean, you don't need to buy softness for everybody. They don't need to go buy salt from Home Depot or wherever. And that's why I think, hey, 50-pound bags. And what if guy, because he needs to treat the water because we're giving him crap, and he needs
Yeah.
to treat it, and he trips and hurts his
Yeah.
back. Are we getting sued? I mean, to me, this whole thing makes absolutely zero sense. And to me, I wouldn't even.
That's just your opinion on that, Fran.
That is my-
I appreciate your input on this bill, like, I get where you're going with it, but hopefully we've explained that portion.
So, well, just one other question along those lines. The water, that we're getting now with the hardness wise, with
Yep.
respect to hardness, that we're getting now, will that increase if we, I don't know, if we treat Keating's, if we treat Keating's for PFAS? I mean, will there be, is there some
So,
reason that the
yeah.
hardness is going to increase?
Absolutely,
Get worse?
because you gotta understand that DEP needs to be net zero on the PFAS, just so we're all clear on that.
Yeah,
That's
not-
what their goal is.
Yeah.
Just hear me out, this is, that, in 10 years, and I'm making this number up, because I can't predict the future, what they're gonna do, but you heard the engineers, that's what DEP, we need to plan like we need to be net zero. That's just where I'm at sitting here. We can go back and forth on those minute numbers, but that's what they're going to want to see. Then the next thing we treat, whatever it may be, if we go treat the Keating's well, Lancaster Ave is more than likely just gonna get shut completely offline because we won't be able to use it because the numbers are too high there for the PFAS. So we'll be solely relying, if we did it that way, on the Keating's wells. So that's why I say the hardness that we see now will now double because we can no longer blend Lancaster Ave water in there.
So unless Lancaster gets blended with Keating's.
We can't.
I'm just saying, unless they get blended.
the hardness
the
will
hardness,
increase.
Yes.
Will go up.
Yes.
Yeah, is there some measure of that? You say it's gonna go through the roof? Is there
Well,
some-
we get complaints now.
Right.
At the level it's at, so
Right.
I can imagine that we would continue to get those complaints.
Okay, so that's, I've got my answer for that. You would not be willing to put that question on a survey?
Well, we haven't really discussed it, but we don't feel that I don't feel, and I agree with the chair, that it's feasible to have the district purchase individual systems for homeowners to utilize. And I agree with the chair that it doesn't make sense for us to provide a less than adequate supply and quality of water. So it's the burden of the district, I think, to supply the quality of water at the highest level we can. But, you know, there's definitely some financial constraints that we're gonna have. And the way we were looking the last time, you see where the temperature is on the community to spend money.
But
You
I
know.
think the other issue is too,
But
is that you can't.
we're not gonna have a
legit-
source.
You
We're not
can't
gonna
put
have
this
water.
on a survey because the residents have come to us and said, you are not giving us an information. We want dollars, we want maintenance, we want this. So how could we consciously put, do you want us to give you a home softener if we can't actually sit there and say, but by the way, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars every year. If we can't legit
You
tell
have
them,
to
that's not
maintain
a,
this
that's
system.
not a fair
That's-
question. You can't say, hey, if
Yeah.
we give you a water softener, would you want it? You would need to say, if we gave you hard water, double the amount you have, and you had to buy a water softener at X amount of dollars, it's gonna cost you this much every year. We can't ask people that because it's not a fair question, because we don't know what it's gonna
Well,
cost them.
that's part of the whole thing, to look at the water and know what kind of water softener, what the cost of, and you get water
But every
softeners
home's gonna
for
be
1,000 to
different.
5,000.
Yeah,
And you get
every
all
home's
kinda-
different, the
But-
amounts
yeah.
are different, so I just don't think it's.
The bo-
I think
Yeah.
what I'm hearing, and I don't wanna belabor it, what
Yeah.
I'm hearing is, as a commission, you don't wanna provide water that's too hard for your customers, I get
Well,
it,
yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
We wanna try to do the best we can to supply the best quality water that we can.
And as the users, and the survey issue or question is, should you have the people who use the water chime in on this or not? I mean, maybe they don't wanna pay that much money for softer water, for lack of a better term. Maybe they don't. And so that finance part, the cost part, is, I think, we relevant and be the input
So,
for them,
I-
because it's huge.
Like I said, I kind of just touched lightly on this because I know you have more questions, but I look at it like, I don't want to put a water softener in my mother's house and expect her to be humping 50-pound bags of salt down there to maintain it. That's how, as I talk about this, I'm like, geez, what would my mother do? Like, that's what I'm saying, like,
What if they don't?
right, you know, that's what, I can't
In fact,
consciously
that
put.
would be a good, on the survey, that
Right.
would come out.
There's,
That
you know,
would
there's some
actually come
people that
out.
are like,
No
yeah,
way do I wanna maintain my own water softener.
Right.
That could come out, yeah, but, okay, I get, I appreciate it.
And it's not only maintaining your own. You're gonna have to pay higher taxes for the town to maintain theirs and their facilities.
So,
Schools,
I'm not
libraries.
sure how a water softener actually works, if there's filtering, I think there's
There's
filtering. We had a person,
I think we beat this one to
Yeah.
death, so we're gonna move on. What else you
I'm
got?
just- I'm
Okay.
getting- I just wanna get
Yeah.
clarity.
You guys
So
all
I'm
have
looking
great
for-
opinions, and I appreciate them.
just-
But fire away, Bill. What else you
I'm
got?
just looking for clarity,
Yep.
that's all. So that, okay, Fran took a hard position on this, so I'll see that for last. I only have one other question. Oh, yeah, it was well number 3, the infamous well number 3. So what I heard at your meeting was if you tap another well at Lancaster, it's going to impact the water levels of the other wells. Now, I understand that happens among wells and the dynamics are kind of complicated. Do you have any data at all that shows when I'm running this well A, well B suffers?
Yes.
Did you have that data?
it was from 1985 when we did the pump test on well
Yeah.
number 5. It actually dropped the water table on well number 1, and this was all part of that meeting. that.
5 and 1.
Yep,
Okay.
they impacted each other, so that's why when we run 2 wells at a time, we run 5 and 2 together, so that they don't impact each other. So well number 1, this was a pump test when they did that, it was like 30 days later, it never recovered to where it was for the test. So there's very limited water in there. Well number 1's 31 feet deep, well number 4 is 49 feet deep, but the water tables is almost 20, so you're down to 30 feet, and you got a 10-foot screen, so without even running the well, you have 20 feet of water, which isn't a whole lot of water. So when you look at all those sources, if you affect a well and you only affect it by 3 or 4 feet, you just put that well offline. And I've had plenty of times since I've worked here where we could only run the wells for 4 hours. Because when I showed you those pump charts with the water tables, you could see that you look at Keating's, you turn that pump on, that water level stays the whole time. You shut it off, goes back to where it was when it started. You do well 1 or well number 4, you'll see it drop and it never stops dropping. And then when it shuts off, and it didn't come back to where it was when it started. So so those are our main sources. Every day it's less and less and less. Now your time frame of actual runtime
How much you can-
decreases.
Right.
And I showed them all these
Right.
charts. I printed them.
Yeah, in fact, I brought him here, and that's a part of why the context of that, your comment about what I feel about Lancaster Wells, I think wasn't accurate. I look at these charts, and you gave me 4 and 1. And while there's an instant drop because of the characteristics of just pumping wells, and when it oh God, I can't read it. Ran for, I think, 12 hours. Ran for 12 hours, so got that quick drop. Ran for 12
Did that
hours.
line, when it ran 12, did that line stay straight or did it?
Oh, no,
gradually drop?
it,
Gradually drop.
it's slowly dropping, but it recovers within an hour to about 95%. So it just fills right back in to about 95, not a day or 2 days or a month. Here, I mean, this is, you can see it.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I know you probably saw a lot of it, so it recovers very, very quickly.
But even when you run it the next time, it can recover to where it was when it started.
It doesn't, that's right, so you got this compound interest kind of thing
Yeah,
going on,
yeah,
right?
exactly,
Right, that's
right.
exact, but 99%, but it doesn't, when you say it drops by, you need to recharge it for like 12 days or something like that, I think I heard it at the meeting.
Some well number 1 was very low.
Well, one looks the same.
Well, you gotta remember, well number 1's 100 gallons a minute off capacity. It's not running at full capacity, because the pump needs to be replaced. And actually, if you saw well number 4, because we replaced the pump at well number 4, you could see a much larger. We actually had to cut it back because we were running out of water. Just this past summer, we cut it back.
Okay, the reason I asked the question, so there's an interaction between the wells. What occurred to me when I was listening to about well number 3 was there were 2 things. One, there's bacteria, and bacteria can be treated, and you are treating any bacteria right now. But there's not a problem with any other wells, and bacteria or any contaminants would diffuse through a source. So I'm kind of curious if that's the only well that has this unique contamination problem. It may not be tied into these other wells.
It's actually well 2 and 3, because well 2 is at limited capacity. We pump that at 75 gallons a minute, which is similar to what a house well might do. Because when we run it at a higher capacity, the water turns nasty yellow, brown bacteria. We even get fecal bacteria. I don't think we ever got an E. coli, but we'll get fecal. So that's what well 3 would do. So that's why they dismantled and took the pump off, because the water quality went horrible. And then so what we did to correct that was we put in well number 5 to regain the capacity. So, but when they did well number 5, the pump test affected well number 1. I mean, yeah, so the capacity of well number 1 was cut off. So
So
the flow,
4, 1, and 5 are all connected?
well, they're all in that same little
Yeah.
aquifer, so I mean.
I mean, one beats up against the other one.
Yeah, exactly,
Does-
exactly. So I mean, like it was said at the meeting, I mean, yeah, we could throw 10 more straws in there. And,
Well,
you could pump a lot more water.
Are we all in agreement here that Lunenburg as a town cannot survive on Lancaster Ave wells alone? I'm asking you that.
you're asking me that?
Yes, your
Just
opinion.
Lancaster wells? No, not at $500,000, what was it?
Right. Okay, I mean-
Yeah, and, yeah,
So, I mean-
One it could serve alone is Keating.
Right,
guess that's-
and I guess it's, I just wanna make sure that we're all clear on that,
And-
like, we limp these wells along, cause they're for us to use. They're not the greatest producers, but they're doing the job right now.
You know, I hate to come into discussions and bring up another topic, because I'm taking your time up. I only had these questions, but if you look at the pumping data for the year, there's, I mean, the amount of water that comes out, although, out of Lancaster, I hate to downplay Lancaster, it looks like a good well.
I
Good system.
absolutely
It's
don't.
just as much as coming out of Keating's.
I don't want to downplay it, but I just know that it's not enough to sustain Lunenburg. So
By itself.
by
Yeah,
itself,
okay.
we need an
Yeah,
additional
yeah,
source.
yeah.
So I'm not. I just don't want to spend the time, playing tennis back and forth on Lancaster Ave wells about the very specifics of what's good, what's bad. At the end of the day, we need an additional source to keep Lunenburg afloat. And also, Bill, just in your mindset, the way I think, just so you know, is everything that we do here, I'm looking at 20 years down the road. Whatever financial decisions we make, we need to make them 20 years down the road. Just so that's my position sitting here.
Yeah, my only question was, I noticed that I thought it was a unique well because that bacteria problem didn't spread to the other one, so it may be something you can pump and clean up. Fran said, no, it's connected to well number 2.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
and so it's essentially the
So-
same.
so-
You answered my question.
So things can happen, like, we actually had an E. coli hit at well number 1, this was quite a few years ago, so we had to fully chlorinate the system, and turn chlorine on the Keatings, and all the stuff, we have frequent bacteria hits at well number 5. So, I mean, stuff, depends how much you pump, how much rainfall, everything, they all interact with each other somehow in some ways.
Didn't we have a beaver problem,
Yeah, on occasion, yeah.
that caused problems? The quality.
Oh, yeah, that was well number 4, yep, well number 4 we had.
Okay, I just had that one remaining one that you touched on.
Okay.
Absolutely impossible to send water from Lancaster to Keats, and so I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I don't have the list, but the engineer said stagnant water, cause it's a 4-mile water main with only like 3 people on it, so that we'd have to somehow come up with a way to.
It'd have to continue, it would have to continue to circulate. The differences in the chemical makeup of the water and bringing them together and that.
Well,
So
You-
to treat the PFAS problems between Hickory Hills and Lancaster, those
no,
Hickory Hills.
Lancaster and Keating.
I understand.
Right.
I'm just explaining this to you.
Oh,
Just so you know, this is how we originally came up. We did Hickory Hills and Lancaster have very similar water quality qualities. You know what I'm saying? Good and bad. Okay. Where Keating's has its own set of water qualities. So the way you would treat the PFAS, the water quality, and these two would be via one method, and Keating's over here was on a separate method. So taking Lancaster and sending it over to Keating's makes it very difficult, those two different water qualities, to treat together.
I hear what you, but Fran was saying something else, but I'd like to know more about that, because we're mixing wells all the time, right? And
But we're-
treating them, so
But
I
we're,
don't.
but
I
we're
don't
not,
know.
we're not treating PFAS right now.
So if you combine Lancaster with Keating, it makes it difficult to treat PFAS?
More difficult because the water qualities are so separate.
Because they're, well, so you can't design a PFAS remediation based on, I just don't understand it, so I'll stop
Because you
there.
have to
I don't get
you'd
that.
have to remove the iron and manganese from Lancaster first, before you sent it into Keating, because of the pilot studies that were done.
Oh, that was
This is
another,
my understanding,
we can't even consider this unless we do a new pilot test.
yeah,
So that,
there's
so there's
another
$360,000, so, or 300, whatever the number was, so for us to even consider this, we
You're
need to
$500,000
appropriate more
in
money
again.
to
Do
do
a
this. 'Cause
pilot
They
study.
said we can't even, we have to do a pilot test.
It's not an idea of just sending, because we're blending it already, it's the idea of that if you're gonna treat the water, you have to treat it correctly. You're gonna remove the iron and manganese first from Lancaster, correct me if I'm wrong, is what I got from the last meeting. And then you would have to, because of the idea of the filters for the PFAS removal, the pilot studies show that you have to remove the iron and manganese first, so you'd have to do that, then you'd have to send it to Keating's, then you'd have to do this.
Can't you send the the Keating, Lancaster Water, you put your whole treatment right there at Keating's?
But
That
ultimately, that's.
that would probably go back to what Fran said about,
Okay,
you
that's
would
what I
need,
think.
you would need a whole new pilot test. Because it is not something that we looked at doing it that way.
Okay, but
And there
before-
was, and the engineers, there were things that they thought they didn't even, that, they talked about it conceptually, but there were things that they had concerns about being able to do exactly what you're asking. And we would need a whole new pilot test to do it.
The hardness is still the same.
The hardness
You
is still
didn't
the
change-
same.
You didn't change any of the
You
hardness.
just spent $500,000 to get the same results. You're gonna get the same numbers for treating.
Bill,
two
I'm gonna
kinds
try
of-
to get some,
But the
Yeah,
Keatings-
we-
The Keating by itself and the hardness is, I'm separating that out, I understand, we talked about that. But transfer, or sending the water from Lancaster to Keatings, is a separate topic. That by itself, it sounds like, one, it's an issue doing new pilot for like 350,000. I think the manganese, and iron can be treated there, you blend it before you do the treatment, right? But what was the other issue? I think you said, the engineer said there was another issue.
The dead end line was huge.
Yeah, what's that?
Stagnant water. The water would sit there, 16-inch main. So if people aren't using the water, you could be drinking water that's 6 months old by the time, I don't really know.
How was that? I don't understand. how
so in
that's-
a water system, an ideal water system, you never want a dead end lined. You want it always to looped around,
So
so.
the water's always
So
moving.
water's always moving, so like,
Yeah.
you take a road, Peninsula Drive, just because we had a water main break there, that's a dead end line, you know what I'm saying? In an ideal world, we don't wanna see that in a water system, we always want it flowing, because,
In-
you know, it's just the nature of the water sits there until someone turns on a faucet. Now, we can't always do that, but that would be, if you did that on a 16-inch main with only a couple people, that water, you think of the volume of water, 16-inch pipe, miles and miles long, it just can sit there forever.
Yeah.
And that's also where you get sediment buildup and
But
everything.
why would it be dead end for this scenario? I'm missing that part. Why would it be a dead end
Well,
situation? You're flowing-
the main water system is on Lancaster Ave, so that's with, it
Yeah,
feeds
there-
Reservoir Road to Page Street, so that's a one line that goes all the way to the Keating well. So currently, right now, there's no stagnant water, cause that well runs so frequently that line's pretty clear. So, but if we do a new line, back, yeah, why would that be?
Yeah.
It's just a
I don't
continuous
know,
flow.
I guess the engineers are,
Maybe does Lancaster be a dead end? I
there
don't
was,
know.
I know that there were reasons that they felt that might not be an option, and they basically said we would need to do another pilot.
Well, if
You
we're
know what?
talking, it's a lot of money, but we're talking about tens of millions of dollars.
I think
Yep.
there's two unanswered questions I kind of feel out of this. One, let's find out a little bit more on the dead end stagnant water line. And two, and this is as I recall going way back when we first started piling testing and talking to the engineers, they had some pretty, even before we started testing Hickory Hills, they had some pretty good information on the different water qualities between let's just call it 3 well sites in Lunenburg, and why they did not want to mix Keatings with this. I will get you a better answer on that.
That's interesting,
Um,
yeah.
I do remember them talking about it. I'm sure we can reach out to them and give you some better concrete evidence on that if you'd like.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. I appreciate the questions. Mr. Rogers, do you have any comment?
Yes, I do. First thing I'd like to touch on is the availability and supply of water. That's one issue. The other issue is the cost of maintenance for whatever we do. Okay? The third is the financial implications of the first 3 or 4 things, because we don't have any idea what the rate would be, the maintenance cost would be. It's only supposition, but they're all factors, and they all zero in on part of the solution or understanding better the problem. Okay? There are so many glitches in this. It's fraught with with all kinds of challenges and things that we don't know. And it comes back to the first and second thing that I learned about, and that is Triple M Corporation and DuPont. Those two. They are the ones that created all of this situation, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, and we didn't know about it, so we didn't know the effects. So this is a far-reaching situation. It's not just in Lunenburg or Massachusetts. It is far-reaching, okay? And every time you turn around, there's new things to take a look at. At the end of the day, my considered opinion is that we are spinning our wheels, wasting our time, until the federal government comes through and says, this is what we're going to do. Now, so many people have told me, well, you know, if DEP comes in and says, this is the problem and you're gonna fix it, right, sure. You can't get blood from a stone. So we did not create this problem. And frankly, we don't have the financial wherewithal to hit the problem the way it needs to. It's at a much higher level, okay? So this is not a thing that's gonna be solved. The suppositions that are made, it's not a winnable battle until people come through from the federal government and from Triple M and DuPont, in my view.
Wish that was true.
I concur.
I wish that would happen, but I just,
Right.
I don't see the federal government coming through. I see Massachusetts is typically a more strict state than the Fed, and they're gonna tell us what we need to do, and the burden is going to be, unfortunately, on the district to do it,
Okay, let's talk about that for 15 seconds.
okay?
As you know, I'm a retired banker. You've got to have the wherewithal to pay for any monies that the district incurs in terms of notes. And it's not an endless stream.
Nope.
And we are handcuffed because the people of the district can just vote it down, and there's not a damn thing that we can do. Not a damn thing that we can do.
So, I understand exactly what you're saying, Mr. Rogers, but I'm gonna tell you right now, with the job of the three people, one's on here, up here, is to continually push this forward to do what we feel is the best solution for Lunenburg. That's all we can do.
Yep.
We have the government mandating this. Believe me, as a guy who pays a water bill in town, these numbers, none of them look appealing to me. But we can't sit here idly. We need to come up with the best solution possible for Lunenburg and push it forward. That's what our job is. And if we push that forward, what we felt is best for Lunenburg, and the Lunenburg townspeople don't agree with it, they vote it down. You know what we do next? We get back together and we do it again. That is our job sitting here. And I'm gonna tell you, it's not the funnest job in the world. But there's no other choice.
Yes, there is.
What is it?
If you can't work the problem and come up with a solution that's practical, affordable, and makes sense, what are you gonna do?
I'm asking you. You just said you came up with a solution.
Yeah.
That's the solution, is to do absolutely nothing.
Negative.
But then they're gonna end up charging us.
Then I won't be doing my job sitting here
Then-
if I just do nothing.
DEP
So-
will charge us and then we'll
You
pay
gotta
for
look
it.
at the medical facts too. From what they determined, at a PFAS level of 0.2, anything higher than that, it causes
Cancer.
harmful effects to humans. Okay, so now that's crazy to get to that level. So they came up with 4 parts per trillion. That's a federal law, EPA law. It's not exceeding 4. There was a thing that said 20 parts per trillion. I'm a liar if I say that's not true. It's 4 parts per
Yep.
trillion. EPA regulation, that's law, that's fact. Okay, so to me, in my opinion, we don't wanna be at 4 or 5 parts per trillion. We wanna be at 0. So I don't wanna give you water that could make you sick. Who knows, maybe it already did, you know?
What?
So anyway, so that's my opinion.
Right.
To me, I don't wanna give, you know, especially with the kids and, you know.
I'm with you. We had some comments of, well, if you're just at the level of the DEP,
4.0.
then you're okay.
And at the end of the day, it's gonna come down that I don't know how it's gonna happen or how it's gonna get funded or the magic one that's gonna make this happen, but I'm gonna tell you right now, in the years to come, and I can't tell you the exact one, that the mandate's gonna end up being 0. Like the engineer said, the government is pushing, the DEP is pushing for
Makes sense.
0. So what we'll try to do is keep coming up with different graphs, different solutions. I get it. I want the government to give me $50 million right now to fix this, but it's not happening. But we, as commissioners, and more importantly, as a community to all the people out there, cannot just sit idly by and kick the can down the road on this. Because it's simply going to get more expensive and more stringent. We need to do something as soon as we can.
If
It's
you
not
don't have-
going away.
If you don't have the money to do it now, in time, you'll never have the money because it'll cost more.
Right.
The problem is that nobody wants to step up to this thing. And,
That's
you know,
not true.
Well, no,
There's
no,
been, there's
we
many
want-
towns
we-
around
we-
here
Wait a
that
minute,
have.
now, what I'm talking about is to solve this problem. Triple M and DuPont, they are the ones.
Okay,
Yeah, but
but I agree with you, but I can't pull blood from that stone.
Of course you can't.
So,
And the federal government won't step in.
all right, so but like I 100% agree with you, but it's almost null and void because it's not going to help me solve this problem. I agree with you, but it's just words.
Yeah.
How are we going to fix this problem? Is what us community commissioners need to wrap around it and come up with something.
You're not.
Believe me, if I wish I had better
So
words to do
we
it,
had,
but
one of the comments from our last meeting was that, have we got a letter saying we need to treat the water?
right.
I spoke to DEP last week, and I said, are we going to get a letter, because we're exceeding the
No.
4 parts per trillion? They said, no, you're not gonna get a letter. You're gonna get a letter when you don't meet the compliance, when you should, you need to, I've already removed the stuff. And he says, well, do we need to tell you you're exceeding 4 parts per trillion? I'm like, no, I know. And he's like, so why do you need a letter? I said, residents said we should have a letter from you saying we have to do it. He said, well, you're not getting a letter. So we'll
So-
get a letter when, hey, you need to be in compliance by this date, and we're not, then they're gonna give you enforcement.
all right. Anybody have anything else?
No.
That's it, what if, sort of a bright light, it doesn't have to do with PFAS, but it has to do with volume. The data you gave me, remember, to look at, is why my comment about the wells
Yep.
was used, in spite of the Lancaster situation, in spite of that situation, it looked good because it's data, and I had done a model, remember, and you said, models don't always work, but I agree with what you need, good information. But anyway, it was June of 2020, the town pumped over 27 million gallons of water out that month.
Yeah, it was a dry period, yeah.
And that was exactly where I was going. It turns out we pumped more out of Lancaster than we did out of Keatings. It was a drought. We didn't have any rain in May or June, and it was an official Massachusetts drought. I looked at this, I felt pretty darn good that our wells are healthy. But anyway, that doesn't have to.
I think our wells
You're
are
still
managed
healthy.
well.
Well, no, the PFAS is a different subject, volume-wise, I'm talking
Yeah,
volume.
he was just going
I'm
how much
talking
we
volume.
pumped.
Right, it had nothing to do with PFAS, it has to do with volume. So from the point of
Yeah.
view of, I mean, that was the drought situation, and we got a lot of water out of it, 27 million gallons.
Yep.
Anyway, that was the bright light, I think.
John's not here, Mark, so.
Can I, have we all set? Well, I don't know, you're the chair, so yeah, I motion to adjourn.
So moved. Thanks for coming in, Bill. I appreciate your input.
Thank you.